What's up?
How we doing?
You doing right?
Ready to rock?
Yeah, don't be so excited. Jesus.
It's Kirk Minihane. This is your first time on my other podcast, right?
Yes. So we're live right now? We're going?
Live right now. Let's fucking do it.
I'm so excited.
Well, listen, you've been doing the car wash, and I know how you keep tally of who at Barstool Sports supports you and puts you on their shows and talks to you.
Not true.
So I'm happy you're getting the attention you so desperately need, but these other jamokes can kick rocks. This is the conversation that people have been waiting for.
I am honored to be the 28th guest on the new Kevin Clancy show. I can't believe it. Joey Molinari, Jeff Hostetler, who the fuck else has been on? And now finally, you had nobody. Who bailed? That's what I want to know.
You were. I was supposed to have you on early, and then it was just like, we'll do it next week. We'll do it next week. And then eventually, when it came time, how long were you guys going to tease the goddamn case for? It took like a fucking year for this thing to come out. I felt like I was like, oh, okay, it's coming. And then you put out a trailer, and then there's like 2 more weeks before another episode. I was like, and then we wait till noon on drop day. I was like, where the fuck is this podcast?
See, this is where you're wrong. Steve, can you turn me up a little bit? I can't really hear Kevin that much. This is where you're wrong. That's not the question. The question is, how many times will I retweet somebody saying how great it is? That's the real question. I think we're at about 640 right now.
Oh, yeah. If you're looking for a speck of attention on social media, tweet at Kirkman about the Case podcast, and it's an auto retweet every time.
Yeah, every single time. I don't blame you, though. Am I looking these up? Never. I would never do that.
Absolutely not. Of course not.
No.
Searching your name and the podcast? No way. I totally get it though, because I think so much of Barstool content is, especially when you're like good at broadcasting, where it's like just press record and fucking go. Write a blog, rip it, post it, whatever.
Right.
When you actually do something that takes work, and I'm sure, how long did you actually work on season 1?
Down somewhere. Now it's too loud, Steve. You gotta turn it down. Just turn the fucking thing down. As far down as it goes? No. Well, turn it down more.
It's now down to where it was when you asked me to turn
it down. Now turn it down more. Oh, that's fine. Thank you. Jesus Christ.
We got audio issues like episode 1 of the Case. I loved the wind blowing for 5 or 6 minutes. That was amazing. Yeah.
The guy we hired to do that was top shelf special effects guy. One of the best. The CGI is unbelievable. The budget, I can't believe. Barstool was like, no, we started in. I was thinking, like you, I'm interested in this stuff.
Yeah.
And like, I was like, I want to try it. I like doing my normal show, but I wanted to try something new. And I started digging around Reddit and saw this story. And I was like, well, fuck, why not? I was in Massachusetts. So I thought in my mind, well, hey, okay, at least I can stay local. We can do this. I can keep doing the show.
You're going down to South Carolina.
Yeah, all over the place. And I reached out to Eric and Dave, and they were like, "Yeah, fine, go for it, no problem." And then we dug in. That got kind of wild. And the real, we're here now on whatever this is, Thursday, and we're still working on editing episode 2. That's the part, Kevin, where I knew I was gonna have a lot of fun with the research and the digging in and interviewing and all that shit and seeing crazy stuff and connecting things. But the actual, the editing and putting it together, that's the fucking work. I knew it was going to take a lot of work, but when I read books, like I always do about these directors, and when I was a kid and they were like, oh, making this movie, I was so tired at the end of the day. I was like, you fucking pussy. But now I'm one of those people. Like, I'm like, legitimate. It's pathetic. I mean, put it this way, doing this is, if I saw a coal miner or something today, I'd be like, my job is way harder than
you ain't got shit.
I had to edit,
back to the factories.
Yeah, shut up. And I had to edit fucking sound today. You know how hard that is?
Yeah, I think it was Margot Robbie the other day said that there's a 20-hour edit of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Like that. She was like, I never see the light of day and no one's ever going to watch it. But there was a version that was 20 hours and you got to boil it all down to 2. I can't imagine. So what is it? Probably like a year's worth of work and research, or?
I can't. Well, we interviewed way over 100 people. We have, probably close to 1,000 hours of interview time.
Right. And you got to boil it down to what? 8? Are you doing 10 episodes? What are you doing?
But it's also I know you're a huge fan of the genre too, but most of them that we like are about cases that are already done and essentially they're recapping it. This isn't. So once in a while we'll learn something or something will happen. And I'll say to Steve, geez, do we have that interview with this guy from 3 months ago that didn't seem relevant at the time, but now shit.
Yeah.
And we didn't really go through that one. So now we got to go back and we're sitting there going through it. And then that's
what makes it so much better. The fact that there might be, especially with a special person of interest being mentioned just off the fucking trailer. The
Right.
fact that this might influence reality is where these kind of things can take off. You know, if like we interviewed Sarah Turney a few
Right.
months
Remember
ago,
that.
like
Yeah,
her,
yeah.
you know, that case coming to fruition is like, that's because of the social media, because of the content. So if there's a chance you can do that with this podcast, that's infinitely better than just recapping, you know, we know who the murderer was, or it's a cold case that can never be solved or whatever.
Right. And I think
so that's
part of
what's very cool about this.
what's a little concerning about that, though, in some ways, is that I do wonder if the social media pressure gets so overwhelming that the police start doing things that they wouldn't normally do,
Right.
just to satisfy a crowd that's making a lot of noise. Like, I don't, you know, the person who was named the person of interest last week, I thought was a very strange move. Like, now the sheriff had told us that before. It's in the trailer in our interviews with him. But I thought that was kind of a wild move to be like, out of nowhere, hey, this guy's a person of interest.
Make it public, right?
Yeah, to just tell a news reporter, like, you don't see that a lot.
Right.
So I was like shit. I mean, but you listen, there may be things we don't even know about that they know about too. Right. So, you know, who knows?
And
but
maybe it was time to name him. Maybe they didn't have enough. But I feel like that's how you get in this spot in the first place, when there's a town who's clamoring for answers or people who want a result. And that's when there's other true crime podcasts and series. I was watching this one. Have you seen Out of Thin Air? It's a murder in Iceland in the 70s.
No. Where's that? Where's that?
Of like straight up coerced
Right.
confessions from
Right.
like 5 or 6 people who all agreed and corroborated, and it's like none of it was true. So when you do put pressure, that's when shit goes south. But also it's when, you know, it could go south, or it could be like, we solved the crime, which would be fucking wild if you dip your toe in this genre and actually got an arrest.
Like, am I a hero? I don't want to answer that question. Okay. I mean,
podcast Jesus, literally, you know, salvation.
Well, I mean, look,
Will they throw a parade for me in Brockton?
Oh, I don't want. Am I looking for the praise that my dad never gave me? No, of course not. What are you talking? Do I go to his grave and say, Dad, like, are you proud of me yet? Number 3 overall on iTunes. Dad, look at this. Look at this. No, of course not. I'm a grown man, 46 years old.
This is just a pet project. This is nothing. It has nothing to do with your validation.
I'm not
self-worth.
No. Is my shrink, after 30 years of listening to me bitch every week about my dad, ready to take me by my fucking neck and throw me out the window? Doubtful.
It really came out great. So wait, how many episodes? I didn't realize that you're still kind of working on them as you go. I guess because it's a fluid thing.
Fluid, right? Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. 8 episodes.
So do you not even know how many episodes we'll end up with? Do you have a ballpark?
We have 8. We have 8 in mind. We have a finale sort of in mind, but we understand it can change. I mean, what do you think? You know, you're a big connoisseur of this. Are you okay with the 40? To me, like, once you get over that 45, 50-minute range, it gets like checkout time. Like, 40
I agree.
minutes
it's a very captivating thing early. You need like a sound bite or something to kind of keep you, and then like wrap it up. I think that's a very good time range for it. I think that's a good amount of episodes for it too. I remember when The Staircase went to Netflix and they added
12 or something,
13 episodes, and it was like, for a case that was like everyone in the world was like, yeah, he did it.
The guy did it. Right.
13 hours. I don't need that, you know?
And
but it really was the probably the best I've listened to, like, since Serial. And maybe it's because I know you, I know your voice and all that. But as far as like the pacing and the narrating and mixing in, even with the bad audio, like just knowing that it was there, even, and you recapped it, it's a good case. It's well done. Because I also, as much as I like true crime, I kind of fell off a little bit where like they
oversaturated,
just went wild with it, where everything was a case and everything was a podcast and a special and everything was biased. And I was like, you know, that last one, Hotel Cecil with Elisa Lamb, was like, I didn't even watch it. Everyone told me how bad it was. I saw how it started, and it was like they're just churning the Aaron Hernandez doc was like, what the fuck is this? So I thought this was good to get back to like what the original genre was.
And I think for me, you know me well. You've talked to me a lot. You know, I always talk like this. That's just the way
I want an episode where it's like, what the fuck was going on in Brockton? What the fuck were these fucking police officers?
Where's the consistency? All I'm asking for is consistency. That's it.
I mean, like, the fact, how badly are you biting your tongue if you're talking to, what's her name? Who's the cop?
And Desmond.
I mean, this woman.
But you know, like, I think, so I think that's important for me when I'm interviewing her. I remember looking at Steve doing it and kind of doing this, like, just let her talk. And then she's saying her thing. And if you haven't listened to the case, she's the detective on Jennifer Faye, who the girl who went missing in Brockton, who we start the series talking about. She's the detective assigned to the case. She shows up a couple of days later, and as she says, walked up the street, talked to a couple of friends who said that a guy picked her up from New Hampshire on a motorcycle, and the two drove to California. And then it gets even wilder, where she talks about flyers and people seeing Jen and Jen's story, which is just not, nobody we talked to said that's anywhere close to reality. And
they literally all laughed at the proposition.
Right. Like, and this is the woman who was the detective, the lone detective on this case for 10 years.
Which also, that's got to be some violation. Like, doesn't there have to be multiple? Like, what if something happened to her in the middle of the case and then no one else has like the info
Good
or
question.
the,
yeah, no,
like
no,
to just have one person assigned, I feel like can't be like protocol, but
to your point, I thought it was important, just the way I do things. Like, it's going to be a little different than a lot of true crime stuff like that. I am going to editorialize, and I'm going to be like, I do not believe this theory. Like, I find this, and this is just wholly unbelievable to me. So
which makes it like, that's always the Barstool difference too, is like, we're going to put our opinion in it. We're going to, I mean, the Barstool difference, just the way you've done things, where it's like, you can do it totally impartial. I don't like too much bias, but I like some opinion. I like some rationale. I like somebody speaking up for, as I'm sitting there going like, this is fucking bullshit. And you say that, I'm like, yes. Okay. Now I know I can trust you,
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, and with this next episode, we dig more into the history of somebody, and I think it gets even wilder. I think we're going to do, sort of the best we can, build it from episode to episode. Like I said, we have a finish in mind. It may change, but it's, I've enjoyed it. I think the first episode did really well. We'll see how it does overall for the year. And I think we'll do some more seasons. I think it's a lot of work. Are you
going to do it like geographically? I know that this was like season 1 was Boston, right?
Well, season 1, Boston is the street name of somebody involved in the case.
Oh, I thought that was just, I thought that meant like Boston,
no. Yeah.
Kind of New York, and next
sort of a double meaning. No. I would like to, I don't have a big interest in going somewhere like heavily popular. I think like what I liked so much about season 1, The True Detective, is that like Louisiana was like a character in the, like, I like the idea of South Carolina and Brockton and like somewhere in the, North Dakota or something that's different versus going to try and figure something. And the other truth is, and I said this in the first episode, is like, like whether it's, I know like you're into the Lacey Peterson story, or you're, the woman in Florida with the kid,
Casey Anthony.
Like there's sort of these, whether it's sort of good looking girls who come from families with some money and some, like, those girls. And while their stories are tragic, they're always going to be represented. There's so many stories about these girls who don't look like that.
Right. But you know what I think it is like when it happens in Greenwich, Connecticut, and there's just no plausible way that some soccer mom would ever be mixed up with the wrong people. And it's just like totally inexplicable. What you do have here, and I think the reason why this is like a cold case, is because police were able to just be like, she fucking ran away. She partied. She did drugs. She's unreliable.
Did you see with the girls in South Carolina, the second episode, same thing, meth, drugs. And what's crazy is you're in Walhalla, which is up in the mountains. And if you go 15, 20 minutes down, Steve, right? Yeah, about 20 minutes down is Clemson, where we stayed while we were in South Carolina. And if some, like you said, if some sophomore on the girls soccer team at Clemson went missing, it'd fucking shut the city down.
Absolutely.
Like, nobody would be moving for days.
It's so horrible. But I also wonder if it's just like any other job, you want police to be like, righteous and doing the right thing and for the right reasons. And then you get the job and you have like a job to do. And you're like, we just, we can't dedicate all our forces to like a junkie because of politics, because of this, because of that. And it's like, as fucked up as it is, it makes sense to me where there would have been one lone cop and they would have been like, yeah, we can't. The mayor doesn't give a shit about this, so we got to do blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And I wonder how much it really is just like, yeah, we wish it was all noble and the right way, but it just can't be like that.
Well, we found out being down there and talking to these people is that it's a sort of meth's a big part of it. And everyone in this little circle's on meth. So you're then trying to have conversations with people who are methed out, tweaking out
years ago. Yeah.
From this girl a couple of years
ago. This is the new one, right?
Yeah, they have a thread, but they're telling you 30 different stories and you talk to 30 different people. And then I put myself in the place of the detective and I've talked to them and I'm like, well, how do you do that? And they're like, it's fucking hard. We don't know. I mean, in 5 women have gone missing in this little town in Oconee, this little county, in the last 2 or 3 years. 5. Now imagine, like you said, if that happened in Winchester, Massachusetts, or Greenwich, Connecticut, or,
the National Guard's coming in.
I mean, it would be the biggest story in the country.
Right.
You know, these pretty housewives or these, great, cute college girls, and it would be totally different.
I can't, the whole process in general of just like solving crime blows my mind, where like you got to walk into a room and survey a situation, or you just hear a story and people are like, figure it out. I mean, I can't believe there's not, and maybe there is more of it. Maybe there's tons of these cases and you only hear about the rich people ones, but it's like, how does any fucking case get solved? You know what I mean?
Well,
especially back in the day, now it's gotten so sophisticated, but back then you're relying on, a detective who just like, which way was the wind blowing that day? Let me figure it out. It's nuts.
Well, one of the detectives we talked to up in Brockton had a line that I wrote down right away. He said, I'm going to sneak in at some point in the series. He said, look, without a confession or a body, you've basically got nothing. You've basically got nothing. He's like, nobody's going to, it doesn't work that way. They're not going to have, it's not Law and Order where one of these guys is going to have a breakdown crying confession.
Right.
Because they're like, well, why? You don't have a body? I'm not fucking confessing. Like, no,
But then that's why, you hear so many examples of the coerced confessions, because they need one of those two things. I've seen enough of them now. That used to totally escape me, where I was like, I do not believe that you would confess to murdering someone when you had nothing to do with it. And then they
put you in a room for 4 days.
Right. I mean, I guess,
and someone's this close to you and you're fucking freaking out. And then and that's why, I did a total 180 when I was younger, even like 10, 15 years ago. I was totally pro death penalty. I've done a total, if you could say, it's not a moral thing, like Tsarnaev, who the marathon bomber, if you said to me, hey, do you want to kill that guy? I'd probably be like, fine. But there are so many historical cases of false confessions now with DNA. I can't, to me, if somebody goes to jail for the rest of their lives, that seems like a fair enough punishment.
Yeah, I'm with that. I mean, unless it's like absolute, no doubt about it.
But how do you do that? But where's the line for that? So it's it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to do,
I watched another special recently. It was like 2020 on this girl who was raped and killed. Guy left semen everywhere, DNA everywhere, no match in the system. But 20 years later, one of these 23andMe people come along and they run the DNA through that. Mm-hmm. They found out it has to be a offspring of these two people, narrow it down to the years and the location. And then they followed this dude around until he picks up they threw out a cigarette and they had their match.
I did see that. Right.
Bananas what they can do now, where it's crazy. I can't believe people give up their DNA willingly now. That's crazy to me.
Nuts. Never. But think of how many cases got fucked up pre-DNA, like in the 30s or the 40s or the 50s. I
feel like only within like a decade or so would I really be like truly confident in the whole system, because before that it was just like, we got to arrest somebody.
Right. And what we're doing is, providing a lot of evidence, some circumstantial, some we think is legitimate, but we're in no way I would not stand in front of a jury with this. I'm saying here it is.
So speculative.
I believe this is there's a lot of bad stuff, but there's a reason why people haven't been prosecuted yet, to my knowledge. And the other thing though, is what I find so interesting. I think we've talked about this, about these true crime series is, you watch Making a Murderer, the Netflix series. And then there was a podcast that I listened to from a guy who's convinced that Avery was guilty and did a podcast. And when you listen to that, you think Avery's guilty.
Absolutely.
And Making a Murderer, you think he's innocent. Same thing with Serial. You're
good at this. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, you can manipulate the West Memphis 3. I've read stories from people and I read that. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. These guys are out of jail. And then you watch the Paradise Lost. You're like, why are these guys in jail? This is fucking outrageous. And I try to avoid bias the best you can, but then you become friendly with the families of the girls who went missing. Right. And then you realize, oh shit, I am now in this, you have to try and step away and say, I'm going to do the best I can here to not bring bias, but there is a natural spot for human bias. It's impossible to, you're lying if you say there isn't some part of that.
But that's what I think is cool about it, is because I also think that mimics investigations and the whole process, where it's
no question.
Cops do have bias from the wrong side of the tracks, or they do like the family, or they do have the politics,
or they just want something to be true.
Right. Just desperate to have it match up.
Let's make this right.
Right.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
What do you think is like the ceiling for the case, like the franchise? Could you see this being like
I would say
switch over to this like full time?
fast food restaurant. I'd say. I think that's sort of the like if we could do a chain of those. I think where it's
I mean, it's such a rabid like genre though, and if you're good at it and you already have this built-in fan base, I mean, I never understood like Serial fell off so hard. They never really like recaptured that.
The Bo Bergdahl year sucked. They got too much into like that's not what people want to hear.
No. It got political. It got weird. Like it's about the mystery. It's about that, like, correcting an injustice. I mean, I felt like Sarah Koenig would marry Adnan tomorrow.
Yeah,
that was that bias to me. I was like, she is
got a little weird.
Stars, but she never really did anything else that I knew of.
No,
that was really good.
I'm looking at the top 10 on iTunes charts, which again does not mean it's how iTunes. Who the fuck knows? But
the charts are
1, 2, 3, 4. We're 3, 4. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are all true crime podcasts.
Crazy.
Like, there are two that the Daily and I think Call Her Daddy are the other. So like, but people.
Sex and murder. That's it. That's what tops the charts.
Yeah. And it's like all, in like the ceiling for it, I think I'd like to do 2 a year. And I would like to continue to do stuff like you're not going to see like me do a series on like, like a Bo Bergdahl. Like I'm not, I like doing this. I like, investigating it. And as I've said before, thank God that Mark Zuckerberg's father stayed in that night and finished in Mrs. Zuckerberg, because without Facebook, we would have nothing right now.
Yeah. Like how could you do that without technology? Right.
Oh, they did it. I mean, I know Old's Gumshoe detective work in like 1956, but like, with us now, we're able to look back at every communication between all potential suspects, and they fight with each other. And they get in the fights with other people and their arrests. And you could, I mean, it's fucking frightening, but you can find anything on anybody.
I saw your idiot fans trolling the person of interest.
Does that surprise you?
I mean, I
mean, is that inevitable? Really?
Yeah.
Ultimately?
I can't wait for something to not be admissible in court because a Minihane like broke some law or something.
Because Steve's fucking asshole on Twitter, or whatever the hell the account is, Blind Mike's pussy on Twitter said it's about have a judge say it, Well, I mean, I got that, Kevin, and I got the big, obviously the Curtatone and the potential Julie DeCaro lawsuit against us. There's a lot.
Oh, wait, I didn't know about this. So what you get in trouble for like slandering her book?
Well, not slandering her book, but we had on the YouTube channel, our intern read her entire book the day it came out.
Is that like disseminating?
Yes, but we gave opinion on it as well. We were legally clear, but she did not like that.
Well, at least somebody read it. I mean, she's got to be happy about that, right?
Rough business. I
mean, I can't. Not that I expected that book to, break
everything
records. But I mean, did it even register other than in the Minifan world?
I bought a copy.
And you sat down, you read it cover to cover?
I read it mostly. I read the Barstool chapter. I had 5 pages dedicated to me.
Wow.
I think even more than Dave. You're in it as well.
I got erased from history. She said that it was Portnoy who tweeted at her that caused she tweeted out that her son was watching wrestling, and then there was like some sex involved at the very end, and The Rock said something inappropriate, and I had tweeted saying, "Take your son and shove him up your candy ass." She attributed that to Portnoy. So I've been erased from history in my claim to fame, Julie DeCaro. Well, I didn't know what else did she say about me. I didn't think I was in it at all.
I forget. Yeah, it was like once or twice. I don't remember. But you're just saying that to her because that's what The Rock says, right?
Yeah. It was. Right. I mean, at that point, I didn't even really know like who she was or whatever. I was just like, "Fuck this."
Yeah.
This is like a mom wrestling is sexualized. Yeah, no fucking kidding. But
yeah, right. But yeah. So that lawsuit is potentially pending as well. So I'm doing all that, doing the show as normal, and then doing this. It's
heroic work. It's
nice of you to say that. I wasn't fishing for that, but yeah.
I liked it. It was, Easter Sunday, and I'm thinking about the Savior and Jesus and the cases coming out. It's all
pissed off. We will send you the Steve. You will send Kevin the second episode before it comes. Thumbs up from Steve Robbins.
Absolutely. Let's go. I want that. What about your golden ticket winner?
He got it. Well, we hate him now because he's a fucking asshole. But we said we'd send it before, and he got it a minute and a half before anybody else got it. So we kept our word. I mean, that's
so petty. That's absolutely fantastic.
What's going on with you?
What happened with him? He's just being a dickhead about the whole thing.
Yeah, he's
stunning to me that one of your biggest lunatic fans who would pay for that is crazy. Wow, shocking.
What's going on with you?
I mean, it's the same old thing. It's 1 Minute Man for me really right now. That's like the focus, but otherwise just podcasting and videos every damn day.
Any good interviews lately?
Not really, to be honest. What we haven't done.
I listened to somebody a couple weeks ago. It was pretty good. I forgot to text. I liked it. I forget.
I like Paul Bettany. He was good.
Oh, was he good?
Yeah, he was cool.
That for WandaVision?
Yeah. He was doing WandaVision. We just haven't done many interviews like period. We took all of January off with guests. And then we sprinkled in a couple more, like started to ramp back up. But we haven't had anything too standoutish.
How does it work? So like with the hierarchy there, we get nobody, which is fine. But like when they have, does it go like first to Pardon My Take, and then if they say no,
like perfect example. Yesterday she texted us, said Bill Burr's
Kelly
doing
Martin?
Huh?
Kelly Martin?
Yeah, your favorite.
She
texted saying Bill Burr is doing PMT.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want him if there's like an extra time slot? And then he wrote back like, I'd rather put some space. Like I'll do it, but I don't want to do it like back to back. So I'll come back around. Yeah. So like it usually, that's kind of like the pecking order. And then there's Dave, I think, who, he just kind of goes rogue with whoever he's interviewing. Or
who he interviews on the show with Eddie?
No, like the BFF stuff. And
that's
a whole separate, those are guests that I don't think anybody else is even looking to touch. So it's just a whole separate world.
Right.
But I mean, listen, as ridiculous as it is for him to sit there and talk to these kids all day, I think it's our second biggest podcast now.
Oh, I don't doubt it. I mean, it's not for me, but I don't doubt it. Like
but even based on like, I was like, this is going to be successful because it is like the perfect blend, but as quick as it went to the top, I mean, that's
right.
Bananas.
So that's a different So I was talking about this maybe with Eric earlier this week and then somebody else yesterday. And you and I have talked about this. Dave's different because he's got a personality, as people have personalities. But this idea in Springsteen and Obama is a perfect example that, hey, we're going to put two big people together and the podcast is going to be great. No, it's going to fucking suck.
It's actually going to be like the worst.
Yeah.
Like that formula will probably create more bad podcasts than not,
correct.
And good ones.
It's great that, Obama has 56 million followers but if the podcast sucks by the third episode, nobody's going to listen to it.
Now, if those guys stepped up and if Obama started to let it fly and really started to talk some shit and say some things, then it'd be the biggest podcast ever. But you know exactly what you're going to get with that. It's going to be like reading press releases the whole time. It's all going to be measured. It's all going to be edited. It's a weird.
What's it like?
Weird fit anyway. I don't know. The whole thing doesn't really seem to be a good formula. If a person like yourself it doesn't even have any interest, forget
none.
It.
But I saw my old company Intercom, which has changed their name to Odyssey. How fucking stupid they are. They announced that they're getting, what's her name? Demi Lovato.
Mm-hmm.
Her name, she's doing a podcast. I'm like, that's going to suck. Like she's going to have.
It's just also, it's so late, it's like
way late. Yeah.
By no means is podcasting dead, but new podcasts right now, unless you're doing something like Dave and Josh did, where it's like really making sense and kind of breaking, new rules and new, whatever. It's just like, how are you going to crack into someone's rotation? Why? Right. When people are set, I actually just realized that recently. I started listening to podcasts for the first time, and I found a few guys that I like, and that kind of fills up like the time that I have to listen to things.
Right.
So it's going to take a lot to crack into that.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, we fall victim to it too. We've done it a couple of times where we hire, like a celebrity mercenary, and it's just like, I don't know how to explain it to you, but people care more about what, fucking Glenny's eating for dinner. I don't know why, but it just is what happens in the world of the internet now.
If somebody said to me, if Barack Obama came up to me and said, hey, Kirk, who should I do a podcast with, eight episode series with Bruce Springsteen? I would say, no, Donald Trump. And the two of you should talk like
real
rules, 1 hour a week, go. Like, that'd be unbelievable.
Yes.
Or like, I remember when Mike Greenberg left ESPN, he started doing his own podcast. The first guest he had on was like, some statistician. I was like, no, the first guest you should have on is fucking Mike Golick after you guys broke up.
Tell the real deal.
Just talk for an hour. Like, it's not that, like, but they, why would you do that? Why don't know? Because people will fucking listen to it.
Who's like your white whale right now for guests? Do you have someone that's been like elusive your whole career, or do you have?
Like other than Springsteen, obviously, because I worship him. But like in terms of like a great. Who I'd love to talk to, because I actually always like, it's funny you mentioned him earlier, when he talks about movies, he's passionate, he's great, I would love to talk to Tarantino for like an hour and a half. Like that would just be like fun for me. Like, bullshit and go through his movies and talk, like, for me, like, why? Do you have somebody or no? Are you still chasing somebody? We've talked to a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a pretty good run. I guess like
Kathy Griffin again, part 2.
What's that?
Kathy Griffin once again. You want to have her on part 2? By the way, now
I've always said. I mean, that's still one of the interviews that stands out the most. Because
question.
The only time I get a little conflict and a little like
I liked it. I told you that. Yeah. And by the way, if Kathy Griffin did that today, what she did then, she'd be looked at as a hero by the media.
I know.
Like, it was like nobody would get canceled now for doing that. No.
Are you guys still all cancel culture all the time, or have you kind of moved off that?
We are not all cancel culture all the time. You say that because every once in a while a cancel cultural story will come up and you'll yell at us, but we are not all cancel culture all the time. I find some of these stories.
There was a run there. There was a run there where you were.
I'm a little fatigued by it now because like it's done now. Like they have won. They have planted it. My issue now is they're just picking off, like just gunning people down there just for the fun of it. Like they they smell really blood and they are going for the kill.
Especially in like the YouTube world and the influencer world. I mean, they're dropping like flies. And
who's the one that my daughter likes? He just got canceled. What's his name?
There's David Dobrik. There's James Charles. There's Jeffree Star. I mean, people who have like tens of millions of dollars
just gone.
Empires.
Right.
Poof,
right.
Gone.
It's weird. It's like these things happen now. Even like Trump in like Parler is gone. Like it doesn't exist.
Wiped off somebody out like, there.
It never happened.
All of their money into it. And all the time. It never even got a shot.
And meanwhile, we work for a guy who just randomly some tape comes up where he's got some dog chain and you're like, well, the train keeps going.
I know it's different, of course, but
of course,
coming from a dude who's like my personal life and my everything has been so scrutinized for years now, like everything I do.
Right.
And this does not influence the dude at all. Every time it happens, it's crazy. I mean, I think back to all the time, like the way that I handled all my shit publicly, and I have no problem with the way I did it because it was genuine and that's how I felt. And I was remorseful and I was sorry. And it wasn't like anything, scripted where I made a wrong PR move. But looking back and now knowing how the guys like Portnoy and Trump and all them operate,
should have gone double middle finger.
I could have just been like, you know what? Not fake news. Didn't have, I mean, I could have just kept it fucking moving.
Well, it's funny. We were talking the other day on the show about one of my favorite movies and books is All the President's Men. And if the Watergate break-in happened today to that level, it wouldn't be a huge story because the other side would overrate it and the side that happened to would dismiss it.
Just be like, no.
Be like, nope.
No, I refuse to believe.
And the people wouldn't influence anybody. It would just be a story for like 2 days on Twitter and then it would just float away. They'd be like, wait a minute, people broke into some building? All right, well, whatever. What's next?
That's what's so weird to me is like, as much as it's like, you got to watch out because you can lose everything in the blink of an eye. You also can, if you play your cards right, can get away with murder.
Oh, for sure.
It's like, is it just circumstantial? Is it timing? Is it who you are? Is it like, I look at Chris D'Elia and his fan base is wildly positive. Like, again, I can't say anything without all my shit being dragged up. Chris D'Elia's fan base, it's like nobody's even considering that it could possibly be real, and they just want their podcaster back. And I feel like that one was more like the time that it occurred for him, people were getting sick of cancel culture. Had it happened earlier, he might have been, dead in the water right away. So I don't know if it's timing or if you just have somebody DM'd me the other day and said, I think you might be uncancelable. Like you have your fan base, not that it's the largest one in the world, but like that they'll just always stick with you, like no matter what. So these people can keep trying and it'll never work.
All right, I hear that too. Yeah.
To some extent it's true. I think everybody can be, and I think everybody eventually will be. But once you get a big enough fan base that either rides with you no matter what, or is just reasonable and can look at situations and be like, it's okay, then it just becomes the, 2 days of Twitter hell and you keep it moving, whatever.
Yeah, well, they just, like I said, they're just looking for. I don't even know who it is today. But they're looking for somebody. They'll get them, and then they'll just be like, all right, well, who's next? I saw Mike Pence just signed a book deal. I'm sure they're gonna fucking try and get rid of that. So great. Like anybody wants to read that fucking book anyway. So Mike Pence doesn't get his book anymore. Like
writing books, what a fucking racket that is, huh?
Well, I mean, yeah. Look at Cuomo or look at DeCaro. Like, but I mean, would I write a book about this whole experience? Like, maybe I might.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, listen, you can write great books from great writers and have amazing stories and all that, but also you can be like a total fucking nobody, have a little bit of a following, get linked up with some ghostwriter and bang out a couple hundred pages, and are you a reader at all? Bestseller. It's like, what?
Do you read it all or no? Books or no?
No, not really. I wish I did more. I mean, I'll do most of my like consuming on the internet, but I wish I read more like front
just
to back
saw-
stories. You
I
know,
was in the bookstore the other day and I just saw a new book about the Mets, and I thought I was actually going to text you. I saw it. Some book about the crazy history of the Mets. It actually looked like it was fairly interesting, but you might know it all. I mean, who
the bad
knows
guys
anyway.
one, is it that one?
No, not the Perlman one. I read that one. It's a new one. Yeah, I forget what it is. I don't know. Are the Mets good this year?
I feel like every year the Mets will always be my thing, but I feel like every year more and more so I relate more to like how your career went, where it's just like you don't really care about sports anymore.
I care about the Masters. That's it. Like right now, I care about the Masters. And what's funny is the other night I actually wound up amazingly watching the end of that Gonzaga UCLA game, and like I enjoyed it. But like, I'm not going to bother. Like, I can't get. And again, it's like I care about golf and I care about. So it's not like I worship Bruce Springsteen. So I'm not better than anybody else. But I can't get that worked up anymore about Cam Newton. Like in my old job, I have to pretend that I care that Cam Newton's with the Patriots.
Well, did you actually ever care, or were you always just like I got to put on a show?
It was a massive. And once I got into it at the beginning, I was still, but I got less and less and less interested. And after a while, I was like, I started saying on the air, I was like, I'm not going to sit here this morning and pretend to you that I care that the Yankees touched the plate more times than the Red Sox last night.
When did that start for you?
Probably like 14, 15, I would say.
Like what age though?
Like late 30s, like late 30s. But you know what sucks though is like I also like Harry, my son Harry, you know, like he's now at the age where he's about to turn 9. So 9 for me was like 83. I was obsessed with the Celtics. Like it was my life. And I see him now and I'm like, geez, I hope my disinterest, I'm trying to pretend with him, but he fucking cares about YouTube. He doesn't care about the fucking sports.
I feel like if you have kids who are interested, then you kind of get rekindled.
Yeah.
You know, it's all same thing with holidays and things that like you stop doing in your, adult life. You're like, oh, now we're going to celebrate again with the kids. I could, if my kid loves basketball, I'll take him to Knicks games, but right now it's just impossible. The Mets I just have a mental illness with the Mets, but everything else is kind of like, I'll watch it. I'll enjoy it. I'll still get excited in the moment and scream and yell. But then when it comes time to like, if we're going to do a podcast about it, you want to talk extensively about these things that have all happened already before, unless there's something in the sports world that actually is interesting. But the actual like discussion of it is kind of like, I would rather talk about other things at this point in my life. And I feel like that's kind of how everybody, unless you're one of these hardcore gamblers or just one of these like sports nuts, I feel like everybody kind of falls off, especially with the amount of entertainment you can consume otherwise now.
Am I going to see Kevin Clancy at some point? Am I going to see Kevin Francis Clancy, my friend, sitting in between Glennie Balls and Brandon Walker at one of those watch-alongs, screaming at some college football game or something?
I cannot possibly see why. Again, if the Mets make a run, I'll be sitting there with Frank fucking Fleming. But if it's random game, unless Portnoy gifts me one of these $10,000 bets, which I don't think is coming down the pike anytime soon for KFC, I can't imagine why I would be in that situation.
I would
more so than you. Will you ever be doing it?
You know what? I'm doing this, but like we had Riggs on my show yesterday. If Riggs or one of those guys said, hey, you want to come with us for a day or two during the Masters and just watch it with us all day? I mean, I work for the company. I would have no problem doing that. But like, I'd have some problem doing that. But like, are you asking me, would I volunteer? No, I would not volunteer.
Go to fucking Philadelphia and sit with those guys right now and watch the Masters?
No, I like those guys. You don't like the foreplay guys?
But I'm just saying you're not doing that.
Well, no, but I'm also like, we're different. Like I'm an adult with children. Like it's not like Riggs has a life that like I don't, like I talked to him yesterday. I'm like, where are you? He was like, oh, I'm leaving Pinehurst again. Like he has no existence.
Maybe the biggest fantasy life outside of
for a guy who loves golf. It's insane.
I mean, and props to him for doing it, but also just the serendipity of a lifetime for this to be his career now is
madness.
Insane.
But that is the beauty of our company, for all the, and I know you and I will occasionally, mostly you'll call me up and bitch about the company. I'm always kind of defending them and saying, Kevin, I don't feel the same way.
Kirk's a big Barstool management guy.
I don't feel the same way you do about this, but listen, I'm here for you. But but you got to say, like, even with the case where they let me do whatever I want, or you with this, like, or Riggs doing this, it is like for all the, like they just go do it. And that's the I think the greatness and sometimes the weakness of the company is when people say, what's the best part about Barstool? I say, let me do whatever I want. What's the worst part? Well, they let me do whatever I want. And then they never check in. Like,
right. And for someone like yourself, you already had, a career, you have your talent, exactly what you're doing. If you're younger or you're trying to find your way and it's like, should I be on Twitch? Should I be on TikTok? And they're just like, I don't know, figure it out. It is very much sink or swim, which I think makes it maintain like a top level of talent. But yeah, if you're looking for direction,
Yeah,
Barstool
go
Sports
somewhere.
ain't the fucking place. What did you think of this hilarious prank from Dave and Eddie?
What was it? I didn't even see it.
They sent out an email being
Uh-huh.
like, Dave's moving to Miami.
Oh, that was a joke?
It was a joke.
Oh, I didn't see that. I'm not even on these emails. I never see them.
No. So the initial email from Daniela just said like, Dave's moving to Miami. We're thinking about like opening up an office. It's very preliminary.
Oh, with a list of people?
And then the people who replied, they made like videos. I think you had to make like a video of yourself. Like, why should you come? And then they just played it on the Dave Portnoy show and like
I didn't
laughed
see
at them.
that.
Which
No.
is, I mean, what kind of prank is a completely reasonable thing
Yeah, I was gonna
that
say,
probably will happen?
I was like,
It's
Dave,
like, gotcha, bitch.
right. Hasn't Dave moved there already? I thought he has moved there.
So like the thought that he's not going to get a bunch of spiders and, you know, support and like personalities down there is crazy. But I guess that was all a joke.
Well, the other thing about Dave is like, I rip Stern, that all the time for selling out and taking the money and doing this. Dave has essentially done that, but at the same time has maintained and even gained his loyalty within his core audience where Stern lost it. I'm not sure he pulled that trick off, Dave. I don't know how he did it.
What's crazy too is I don't think it's really like calculated.
Oh, no, definitely not. He doesn't have the discipline to do that.
None of it's calculated, but all of it works.
Right.
I mean, God bless whoever takes on the task of writing the book one day that's specifically just about Dave. It's a fascinating one because of exactly what you described. It's like the ability to sell out, but not, and the ability to make money, but he makes money at gambling, like things that are just against the laws of nature. Somehow Portnoy does with zero effort. And maybe that's actually the answer is people who try to do it through PR teams and managers and all that. They don't do it because it's not authentic, where Dave is just like, yeah, I fuck. And everyone's like, okay.
Did you hear the body bagging of Jared Carabas by Erica Nardini on the Token CEO podcast?
You can't be trusted, bro. You go on these shows and just stoke the fire.
Wait a minute. I'm offended by that. I wanted that removed from the podcast. That was no.
You're telling me that was not Kirk
premeditated,
provoked?
No. Did I think about it while I was running that morning? Never. No. To have her say A, he's mailing it in, and B, losing his audience. Oof. Your boss saying that on the podcast?
You're doing it again right now.
She said it, not me. She said it, not me. I love Jared.
What's going on? Is there some sort of dissension amongst your trivia team? Is he not in it anymore or something?
Well, we won the other night. We smoked the Chicklets guys, who I love, 15-9. Jared was just like, after this Erica thing, we talked to him. He's all pissed off. He's on our show tomorrow. He's going to talk about it. If you watch,
I'm sure he is.
It's not my fault.
It's kind of your fault.
It's not my. I mean,
you could have either changed the topic or had his back or
show, Kevin. I did have his back.
What'd you say?
My silence in the way was a defense.
Oh, okay. Got it. It was a protest, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah, right. If you watch the episode, Steve's there, I'm there. And Jared is like in the dark with like 10 baseball games in front of him. He's just staring ahead with like the lights going off on his face. He looks like a fucking lunatic. And he was just checked out the whole time. We took like 40 calls yesterday for people who were like, is he okay? Is he going to be all right?
I commend his commitment to baseball, but like we were just saying earlier, like I can barely care about one team, let alone to have interest in 10 different games.
But he does care though. Like
I know. It's not like forced at all. It's all authentic. I just can't, but it comes time to do anything else. And it's just like, I got to watch all these baseball games.
You're not on the trivia team, are you?
No, I don't know really what happened with the dozen. So I did one episode with Pat and Jet Ski where it was just like a cobbled together team.
Right.
But I never, I don't know if that was an invite thing or if I should have been like proactive about making a team. I would have loved to be in on it, but I just didn't really have any, I don't know, didn't get drafted.
Yeah. So yeah, it's fun.
I feel like you love it. That's one of the big things you're like contributing to. Yeah.
And Jeff does a good job. And
I think the problem for me is, when I have done it, I think Jeff Delo's brain is like the most polar opposite brain of mine to ever exist. So the questions he's coming up with, like when he's just like, who played like this position for like the 99 Rose Bowl?
Right.
No fucking, I can't even begin to start. So just next question. But I love Jeopardy. I love quiz show shit. I would love to be in on it, but I feel like you and your team has been, where are you ranked?
We're ranked third, and I think with our 15, there may be a chance we're up to number 2 for the playoffs. Maybe, I don't know.
And then how does playoffs work? Is it like what single elimination?
I think they want to bring everybody to New York, which is concerning. But then it's going to be I think like 12 teams. I don't know how they're doing it, but we'll do it. We'll go.
I feel like it's been one of the biggest successes of Barstool recently.
Well, it's similar to yours, that you did with the Survivor thing. Like it kind of gets some buzz, and there's
you know what's crazy about that? Like, we should probably be thinking about a season 2 or a new show. And
nothing.
I mean, I'm down, but it's like it's going to take meetings and people and someone dedicated to it and figuring it out. And maybe that's just going to have to be me. But it's just like I don't know. Do we want to try to run this back? That was massively successful.
Well, you want to do it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So 100%. Is it the kind of thing where if what I've always said in the past when people ask me how do you get attention is you kind of bitch about it publicly. Like if you tweet about it or you go on your show and you're like, what the fuck, where the fuck is season 2? Then all of a sudden, guess what? People are like, oh, that's right. Season 2.
Yeah. Squeaky wheel, man. I mean, I feel like that's been my issue for life, but certainly here is like, there's just no reward in life for just putting your head down and doing your work. There's just no reason to do it.
No, I think, well, I mean, it's because you're passionate. Like if you didn't give a fuck about season 2, then season 2 will never happen.
Right.
Like I think,
but just in general, I feel like, I mean, like I tried to do things like, I never had management and agents and tried to do things in-house and keep things quiet and do things well and never bitch and complain and never be a problem. And then I see that the best way to get money and make it to the top is to be a problem.
Well, you didn't use an agent for this contract, right?
No, but what I feel like I feel like I need, my thought with using an agent for Barstool for contract purposes is the amount of money that they're going to get extra out of Dave Portnoy and Erica is going to probably be like equal to their fee. You know what I mean?
No,
Barstool's not going to get bowled over by some like slick talking agent where all of a sudden you're getting like $100,000 extra. You're going to get a few extra bucks that goes right to him. What I do think I needed is like, maybe it's more of manager than agent, just like finding other opportunities or linking up with people. Like, if there was a Josh Richards type person out there for me that an agent or someone can introduce and all that kind of shit. Because otherwise you're just in like a Barstool bubble that's fine and successful. But if you want to go anywhere else, I feel like you need connections or someone to help along the way. So I feel like that's kind of where I would never use it for money. I would use it more for opportunities, I think. Yeah,
I didn't have an agent for my last radio deal I signed because of that. Like I remember the contract before, like it was like a 3 or 4 year deal. I remember being like 27 months in and writing a check at the beginning of every month. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing?
Fucking what, right?
Right. And to your point, even like in radio, it was like, well, I know what this guy makes and this guy makes. I know what I'm going to make basically. Am I going to have an agent take 6% of that to go say what I know? I know as much as he does more. Like it's fucking crazy.
What were you making at your peak?
At EI?
Yeah.
My last contract was, well, I didn't finish it. I left to go to Barstool, but I think it would have been like, it was like 1-2 without bonuses even. Wow. So, I mean, we were talking like, and I probably never told you this, but I did finish first frequently in the morning.
I want to say upwards of like a 15 rating.
Yeah. And you probably don't know how it ended, but there was a whole, we don't,
there's a guy. And
it's fine. But is he
where's the industry at now money-wise?
Is he a suspect in the case, this guy? Maybe.
Perhaps.
Is there a framing in the works? Look, I don't want to say it.
Wouldn't that be the ultimate revenge? He goes to jail.
What were you going to say?
Plant some DNA.
Wait, what were you going to ask me before that?
Where is the like radio industry at? Like are those type of contracts still being handed out now, or has podcasting and the internet just killed it all?
No, I don't know. Like who's the closest to? Not in terms of like, wildness and buzz, but like who's the closest to Howard Stern in radio now? Like in terms of just a national figure who has a shitload of listeners. It's like, is it like Seacrest or Steve Harvey or I don't even know. Bobby Bones, is it like that?
I guess. I
don't listen to those shows, so I don't know.
I would immediately go more to podcasting where it's like, the Rogans of the world and shit like that. But the actual radio broadcasters, I mean, sports wise, it was Francesa for a while.
Yeah, and that went away. Like so, but that's a good example. So like Carton comes back, and I know his situation's different, but I mean, he was making a fraction. I am sure of what he was making before. A fraction.
Has to be right. I mean, but I feel like even if it wasn't, bad circumstances, I feel like is there anybody out there making $1 million to just be on terrestrial radio right now? I always thought it would be a nice like landing spot for me where it's like when I'm done doing controversial shit and I'm done being in the mud, just go talk about the Mets bullpen every fucking day for a couple hours and cash checks.
Even though you said you're bored of it, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm bored of it, but I'll be like, it's like being on the senior tour. It's just like, whatever. I just, here to make money. But I feel like that's not even the cash grab.
I think Boomer Esiason makes a lot of money.
That's a good example. Yeah.
So obviously New York's huge, massive city, but I think like the top guys, say in Chicago, Boston, are still probably doing pretty well. And the golden days are over.
So are all those guys taking like pay cuts?
Yeah, I would think like a guy. So there's a guy in Boston, Michael Felger. His show's really big in the afternoons. Been big for like 10 years.
Yeah.
I would guess he's still probably making 7 figures. I think probably still, but that's ending. I mean, the average age of a radio listener now, like early 50s, mid 50s, like it's crazy. And that's that they statistically don't buy shit. So
I also just don't get the idea of like, why not also do a podcast and not just like, recap,
that's the
best
problem
of your show.
But these are not creative guys though. They're sports guys.
Yeah.
So like at EI, this is how fucking dumb this company was that I worked for. They'd be like, I forget what they called it. There was a show with Lou Merloni and Christian Fourier, and they were both athletes. Oh, so they were talking about podcasts, and not them, but somebody in the building went to me one day in charge of podcasts. This is when I had my podcast. And so I'm thinking of telling Christian and Lou about an idea I have for a podcast for them called Jock Itch, where they talk about being athletes. And I remember I literally didn't say anything. I just walked down the hallway. Like I didn't.
I can't even dignify that with a response.
I work. This person, like I work with this human being, but like they would have, Dale Arnold, who did the sports midday, whatever, in sports for 4 hours. They'd be like, all right, Dale, you have to do a podcast. Go talk about hockey. It's like, well, fucking why? Like that's what talk about all day. Like what do you talk about something you talk about a niche like
care about. Something that you're going to have passion. It can be literally anything as long as you have some passion about it. You'll find a fan base if you already have an existing audience. It's crazy to me how much they almost underthink it by overthinking it. You know what I mean? It's like,
of course.
Why do podcasts work? Because they're relatable. So let's get two athletes together and talk about something totally unrelatable. It's like, work.
Even like with say Deion Sanders, who I know is great with these guys at Barstool on that show, with Dave and Erica and Dan, but like, do I want to hear Deion Sanders talk to Dan Marino for 20 minutes? I do not, unless they're really going to fucking talk about something, then I'm in. If it's like, hey, you're great. No, you're great. Well, why do I want to listen to that?
Well, what do you think? Like, what would be your thoughts on a Paul Pierce, Kendrick Perkins Barstool podcast?
I know the internet will love
like, have you listened to Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes?
A little bit, yeah.
Those guys let it fucking fly. They say what they need to say. They talk shit. Like that works. So
that's the key. That's it. Yeah. Like if you're saying to me, no holds barred, great. If it's more like, hey, we're gonna bring on Doc Rivers today and talk, I'm out. Or like, hey, what's going on in the league right now? I'm all set.
Don't
like
care.
If you're right.
Tell stories, name names, expose some shit that's interesting. Talk shit to whoever then I'm in. But the fact that these people think they can just do these like sanitary, just like talk about glory days, it's like it doesn't fucking work. You can do it, but it's not gonna fucking work.
But here's the problem though. Like here's where they think it can work is because initially, like if you say, hey, Paul Pierce and Kendrick Perkins are doing a podcast, and that may be very good, or whoever, if Dan Marino is going to do a podcast with John Elway talking about being quarterbacks. If that's one podcast, they're going to pitch to, and the other one is Kevin Clancy and Kirk Minihane are going to do a podcast together. Mercedes-Benz is going to say, oh, Dan Marino and John Elway?
Right.
No, they don't realize.
You just have built-in money immediately.
Right. And they don't realize like, well, ours will be much better. They'll have much more rabid fan base. Way more longevity, way more listeners, way more buzz. But they're going to be like, wait, you're telling me like week 3? They're going to have Dan Fouts on?
Right. Wow. What an all-star cast.
Like that's unbelievable. And it's kind of like, it's not.
So do you think though, I feel like all things in the industry, as people from like my generation become CEOs and the decision makers, that there will be people who are going to go, no, give that money to Kirk and Kevin.
I hope.
Or is it still just like the same thing I said about the cops, where when you get into that job, you're like, I'm not going to rock the boat. Let's just take the Mercedes money and give it to fucking Dan Marino.
I mean, I hope that changes, but I wonder about the people who get to the top. I just don't know. You're right. Like the decision, like I said to you, you wanted to stay, but I was like, well, shit, you would have been a great replacement for Francesa. Like, I know you didn't want to do it. It would have brought a shitload of buzz. It would have brought the younger audience, would have brought the Barstool audience to go over and listen to the radio. But they want to hire Carton. But if they didn't hire Carton, they weren't going to even think about you. They would have hired whoever, some sporto from,
Absolutely.
John Jastrzemski or some drip. And they would have brought them in there and done the same fucking shit that they always do. Like it never, I don't know. It never, like, you got Bill Simmons, who's hugely popular. He does basketball with like Jackie McMullen for an hour. And I'm like, well, I guess there's an audience. There must be some audience.
Heard of a Bill Simmons take, good or bad,
right?
Whatever, in how long? I
mean, he's making a fortune,
but he's still just cashing checks. It's like
a fortune. And, I'm sure he has a base. I'm sure he has an audience, but like,
I guess it's sort of like stand-up comics. Like they're the guys who just do they got their like $1 million routine.
And Seinfeld or whatever.
They just do it for 15 fucking years where it's like the same jokes, the same premises. And then you have like the new age guys who are like, new special, new material every year. And it's, I guess I can see both sides of it. I like to think of myself as someone who like wants to keep making new shit and evolving. But also if you told me like, dude, you can just do this for the next 10 or 15 and retire. It's like, well.
Yeah, that's the thing. So for me, like with the regular show, which I still like doing, we do 3 days a week now. Like I enjoy it, but I wanted to try something different. That's why I started doing this. And like I said, with this new deal that ends in 2024, that'll be it for this show. Like I've already announced my retirement date. Done. I'm not doing the Kirk Minihane show anymore, but I'm going to do something else. But I don't.
Really?
Yeah. I'm retired. Yeah. It's like Johnny Carson. I announced my retirement 3 years in advance.
I was going to say, we still got some time, but 2024, you'll no longer just be doing like a shoot the shoot podcast.
I don't want to sit around and like look at Jared and Mike and Steve and tell the same fucking joke. I enjoy doing it a lot now, but I then want to try something that maybe with some of you. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. I've thought, so I dipped my toe in, I called it storyboards a few years ago where I was doing like documentary podcasts where it was like, I did one on Chappelle. I did one on James Dolan. I did like a spoof one, Dennis Rodman. I love doing those. I find that to be the most like satisfying thing I've ever done where it's like
a lot of work though.
It's so work intensive, finding the sound bites and having it edited and writing a script and working it in. And I would love to get to a point where like I could just do those because I think there's so many unbelievable untold stories of like sports and entertainment and pop culture and all that shit. But if you're trying to do that while also doing 3 podcasts and covering a team and doing these internet videos, it's just like, it's not really in the cards. But every time I did them, they were well received. But I'd love a point where, maybe when the money comes in or when things slow down, it's like, all right, you'll see me on social media. I'll do a podcast here and there. But, every like 6 months, we're going to be putting out like the produced project, which I think feels a little bit like sell out and Hollywood-ish as opposed to just like the shit we've been doing. But also, after it'll be, 15, 20 years, whatever. It's like, it's time to switch it up.
That's the thing. I'll be 50 years old when this contract's up and I've been doing radio and podcasting for about 15 years or even more. So it's kind of like, and the other thing is when we do season 2 of The Case this time, I think I'm probably going to put the show on hiatus for 4 or 5, 6 weeks because, like, when we do the show, it's not the show's, like with you and Feilberg, it's not the show's hard. It's actually just 2 hours you could be doing something else.
Right.
Like it's just
an opportunity cost. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's like, I could, we like, this is great. Like you and I could do this all day.
Right.
But like, it's like, if we did this 5 days a week, well, that's 5 hours that, if you could do something, and that's part of it.
I used to feel that way about Sirius where it was like from 2 to 3 in the middle of every fucking day. So if you want to go somewhere or do something,
it's hard.
You can't, it's 60 minutes, but if it's in the middle of the day, everything else, before and after it is shot. So it really is.
You missed that at all or no?
What's that?
You missed that at all or no?
I miss it from a point of view of like if there's something I really want to get my opinion off and the podcast just came out. So I got to wait a couple days to say it. And by that time it's kind of dead. And so the immediacy of it was interesting. But other than that, like I always felt like Sirius was kind of just like spinning our wheels,
That's the one thing I do miss about radio. I do miss that. Like this happened last night or this happened overnight. I'm going to go in right now. We're going to be the first people, people want to hear us talk about while they're driving to work. And I'm going to give it to you right now, not in 3 hours, not at noon, right now. Here it is. And that's it. I do that part of it. I do miss.
And I like a little bit of pressure of like the live aspect where it's like, I like that I can do it and, and it shows and stuff like that. But otherwise it just feels like it's just a backwards step. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
Make it on demand and do it this way. But I also still have such a fear of like, like even just taking some time off where it's like, take a couple weeks off. And
No, there's always an issue with you. We've talked about this. Just take fucking 2 weeks. The world will not end. Take 2 weeks off.
I know. Well, you know what it is? I feel like
fucking take 2 weeks off.
Recently, I feel like especially with the videos popping off, like the ads are finally rolling in on that. And there's like money to be made. And it's like, I feel like now's the time I should be like pushing, the pedal to the metal. It's the first time that video series is the first thing I've had that like popped off. Everything else was like successful and a slow grind. Yeah, and it's like upper tier, but it's not one of these explosions. That video series is. So I feel like now's not the time to take off. But I'm also like, well, if I burn myself out, then fucking, then it's all for nothing, it sounds obnoxious saying that, where it's like you said, coal miners of the world.
No, but it's real.
But man, it's, when I'm doing as many shows as I am and as much exposure as it is, it's like, it's a fucking grind.
No, for sure. Yeah, no, for sure.
What's
I'm really sorry you have to do that.
Yeah, it's
no,
I'm talking about being heroic earlier, where
I don't.
You're solving murders, and I talk for 2 minutes at a time about Shaq buying a guy a ring in a store.
I saw that. If I was that guy, I would have been like, "Fuck you."
We discussed that on the episode of KC Radio that's out today. Like there is a
I'm
level.
A man. I'm a grown man. Like
but so. I wouldn't have a problem with him paying for it, because I do believe that engagement rings are the stupidest.
Agreed. I understand
that we do as a society. Truly, like number one is engagement rings and weddings. Not projecting here at all, but I wouldn't want it to be viral. I would gladly let that happen. I just don't need the whole world seeing it.
I guess. Yeah.
There's something definitely emasculating about it.
But, you assign gender. I don't, but that's fine.
So what's so you double lawsuit going on?
Yeah, at least
number one podcast.
Number 3, yeah.
Number 3, which is can you get over the hump? You fucking loser.
Whatever the hill, I don't know whether the hills or something. It's number 1. I don't know what it's.
It's crazy what is number 1. It's like things that I've never heard of. Sometimes it's a Rogan or a Caller Daddy or whatever, and other times it's like, how is this the number 1 podcast in the world right now? And I have no fucking just NPR or some shit.
Yeah, it's OC Swing. It's a true crime thing. I'll tell you, it's wild. I'm looking. Caller Daddy has 152,000 reviews for the podcast. It's just insane.
It's a staggering. I mean,
incredible.
When it's time to write the story of podcasts and podcasting, like you can't tell it without Alexandra Cooper, which is
of course not. And to my earlier point, who the fuck was she when it started? You want to give a podcast to Gwyneth Paltrow that no one's going to listen to, or her, like who has something to say.
So you got to have the Midas touch and know who to pick.
No shit.
Would you ever like run a network of podcasts or something like that, like executive produce other talent?
Sure. Yeah, I would consider it. Like I think I have a good idea of what works and what doesn't work. But
do you think you could like teach?
I don't think you can. That's hard to do.
Right?
I think it's like this last hour, is not teachable.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's the greatest hour in history, but we know each other. We talk. There's no filter, and it could go on somewhere else. Like, if you had a typical consultant here, they'd be like, well, you're here to promote the case. Like, you only talked about the case for 10 minutes, and then you guys started. Why are you asking Kevin questions about? Like, I'm like, well, that's because people want to listen to it.
That's the idea that you have to just talk about your project rather than just like be likable on the appearance, so that people want to see more of you and they look you up and they watch your shit.
Yeah, it's not.
Versus like, let me tell you why. Like, tune in Monday 9 p.m. Get the fuck out of here. How are you guys still so backwards?
It's weird, but yeah, but I mean, like I would just. It's not like like you just said. I would just say to people, just fucking talk. Like if you're something you're passionate about, talk. But there are a lot of people who just aren't capable of that. Like, I mean, people think it's easy. Like, oh, you just talk. Well, no, if you do it for 2.5 hours, it's not that easy. It's not.
And the also like I'm like, do it every day, every week, twice a week, write blogs every single day, all day, whatever it is. And people are like, all right, I'll do it. And 2 weeks later, they fall off. It's like, you got to do it for like a year, maybe, before you get picked up. Like
Yeah. But again,
we are the heroes of the internet. So
I like to think so. Yeah, I like to think so. Yes. Yeah. So, but I am here to promote the case, by the way. The Case podcast.
Case podcast, episode 2. So they're dropping every Monday?
Every Monday. There's a time you like, noon.
What?
Mikey Fowler. We took the advice of Mike Fowler, one of the great minds in podcasting history.
Are you're okay with that? Like,
what builds up the suspense during the day?
What are you talking about? Just like,
I don't know.
Like the people who are up in the morning are going to listen. The people who are up later in the day are going to listen. And
I know I sound like a radio consultant there. No, it builds up the suspense. It builds up the suspense. I don't know. Mikey said that noon's a good time to drop. What does it matter?
Well,
You're gonna listen to it anyway. If you listen to it one or
Yeah, for sure. I would rather like to listen. I would listen to it like on the morning into work though.
What time you guys drop early?
Yeah, I mean we're like first thing in the morning.
Right. Yeah, we used to when we do it at night. We drop early in the morning, 6 a.m. I think most podcasts drop that early, right?
Yeah, I think the idea is almost like to be like top of the fucking your subscription list or whatever. But
does that even matter either? Like if people,
I mean none of this shit like the rankings matter for like a clout, type of, like look, I'm number one on the charts, but doesn't really mean anything. And I mean I've learned like Logan Paul has his show Impulsive Show. They won like there was some podcast award show that they won podcast of the year. So they're like, we're the number one podcast on the planet.
Sure,
they just
not?
say it.
Why not?
But they just, and they know it. They know that there's the Rogans but they just say it. And people, it's just a tagline every time they start the show. I'm like, why don't you just start saying these? Just start saying the case is number one. Just fucking do it.
Sure. Why? I mean, I was going to say something about that.
Photoshop a picture, have Steve Photoshop the chart to say number one, put it out and that's it.
Yeah. But I don't, like you guys have done your show forever and you have a huge base, but like, you're not. It's like you clearly have more subscribers than shows that are higher than you on the iTunes.
Yeah, we'll never be high on the charts because like when you get 150,000 reviews in 2 years or whatever, like Alex did,
you're never
so much activity. Right now,
but
for us to like break out of that algorithm or whatever would take a paradigm shift. It's like we just are where we are.
I almost never check for us. It's almost like if we have a crazy show or like a wild guest, it'll pop up like way higher than usual, but then it'll go back to where it is.
That's what I really have not even checked.
Just fine. I don't even care. Like, it's like, what do you, our numbers are, I don't know. The numbers are good. So but yeah, every Monday at noon, it's at the Case Podcast on Twitter. And we have, I don't know, Steve has some websites. I don't know what the website is, but
it's good to follow the Twitter too, though, because you do have some of the visuals of the maps and shit like that.
We're
like talking about the streets and seeing where everything happened. So there's a good visual element to it too. So every Monday at noon Eastern time, Case Podcast. Yes. No joke, it really is good. I wouldn't say that if it wasn't, because it is a genre I do like, and I wouldn't blow smoke. So well done, man. Congrats. And
I'm glad that Frank the Tank couldn't make it today, so I could fill in as a guest. So I know where I stand now. I'm the Tony Randall of the Kevin Clancy show. That's fine.
Nobody better than you, babe.
All right. Talk to you later.
Have a good one.